Welcome and welcome back to my Leah's Cup of Books. First of all, happy Black History Month. This is a month filled with so much culture and history, but also we have Valentine's Day and we have, for me, it is my 6th wedding anniversary, and so I have a lot to celebrate this month, and I'm really excited to do a lot of reading this month. Now, I am really doing something different. I don't always have a TBR, or I don't always stick to a TBR, but this year I'm trying again something a little bit different. Especially for this month, I was really intentional about choosing the books and the authors that I really wanted to read, and I've been trying to highlight more clean and Christian authors. Sometimes it's just going to be clean books. They may not necessarily be Christian, but also they may just be Christian and clean, obviously. But really trying to highlight more Black authors, not just because it's Black History Month, but like I always say this, I say that I'm Black all year round. Like, I'm Black in February and I'm gonna be Black after February. And so I want to read more books by Black authors anyway, and I want to read more clean and Christian fiction anyway. And so being able to intentionally find some really good books this month and continue to find these books and share them with you is a goal of mine. So if you're looking for more Black, clean, and Christian books, or clean books by Black authors, or Christian books by Black authors, then I think this is the place for you. So stick around and let's get right into the video. My first 5-star read of the year, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 books, but I will say with some of these books, I may have started them in a different month. For instance, the first book on my list, which is a 5-star read for me, and I think the first book I actually read this year, I started it in December, so on December 31st, but finished it on January 1st of 2026, right? So The Scammer by Tiffany D. Jackson, I counted it I think I just counted it for January because I was like, I finished it in January, it's fine. But this book for me was not only the last book of the year that I started, but the first book that I finished of the new year. It was so good. It's not a Christian book. It is I think it's a new adult. I don't know if some people would classify this as YA. I would not classify it as YA because I believe the main character, whose name I forget now, but she was in college. She had just gone to college. She went to an HBCU. And the whole thing about this story is, first of all, one thing you need to know about me is I love mystery and thriller books. I love them so much. So Tiffany D. Jackson is a auto-buy author for me usually, especially her mystery and thriller books. And she writes a lot of YA and sometimes middle grade mystery and thriller books, and so this one I think may be her first new adult if I'm not mistaken, and her books always make me mad. For this book, we do have some trigger warnings, though it was a cleaner read. There was not any sex on the page that I remember. I don't even think there was a lot of explicit language that I remember. There may have been some language because they were in college, but I don't remember a lot of swear words or anything like that, though there was a cult thing happening. There was something about somebody unaliving themselves in this, and you do have some abuse things mentioned or hinted at, or things that happen. Of course, it's also a mystery, so you do have some things happening to people that may have to do with people being unalived, and so there is a lot of drama there, but there's also a really sweet romance. Oh my goodness, when I tell you, this romance had me it was the plot B of the story, but it was so good, so sweet. It's just so much going on in this book, and I feel like Tiffany D. Jackson does a great job she knows how to tell a story. So if you want a well-written story that is it's not Christian, right? It's not necessarily that, but it is cleaner than a lot of mystery and thrillers out here. And I really appreciated that. I appreciated being able to read it, enjoy the story, and not feel whoa, there's just way too much going on and I have to skip a bunch of chapters to be able to enjoy it. So it was a 5-star read for me, and I highly recommend. We're going to take a sip of tea here as I move on to the next book. For January, I had one book that I read with my sister. We do a buddy read every month, and the pick for our buddy read was The Teacher by Frida McFadden. Now, we chose this book because we read the Housemaid series, which I will say I liked the first book in the Housemaid series. I did not really like the rest of the series personally, though the first book was one of those books where I read when I was really starting to pick up more thrillers. Like I was reading a lot of YA mystery and thriller books, and then I was starting to pick up more adult thrillers, and she was one of those like first authors that I picked up when I started reading more. And I liked The Housemaid, though I will say it did have some spice and some things going on and just a lot of probably other trigger warnings that you should watch out for. But I liked it at the time because it was a read that I think I stayed up and wanted to like finish it. I remember that I wanted to like get to the end of that book. And so for that experience, I liked that book. But as I've sort of started getting into more Christian fiction and cleaner books, I've started realizing that some of Freedom McFadden's books are a little too explicit for me, and The Teacher was one of those books. And I was not feeling it. I had to skip to like the last 3 chapters just so I could figure out how it ended so that I could talk to my sister about it. But I told her like I could not get through a lot of this book. I actually warned her like, hey, you may have to like actually stop reading at this point or skip because there are some really intense, inappropriate chapters coming up. It just was an icky feeling for me. So not to shame this author or anything, but for me, the topic and just like the book in general, it was like a big trigger warning, and I kind of had to DNF it because I could not finish the entire book. I had to just kind of skip ahead. So just a fair warning for you. The next book on my list is another mystery thriller. It is a YA mystery thriller. It is called How to Survive Your Murder by Danielle Valentine. Now, this book, I think I gave it, looks like I gave it a 4.5 star or a 4.7, something like that. And with this one, it was another one of those books where I wanted to stay up reading it. Like I was definitely reading this book at night. And I remember reading this book at night and being like, ooh, like I'm in the dark and I'm like, oh, this is a little scary, but it was that good. She knows how to write a book that really makes you feel like I'm in a scary movie. I really liked the book for majority of it. You know, it was just like one of those thrillers where, again, I felt like I was in Scream or something. And if you know Scream, like the original Scream, which I think it took some inspiration from that, I like horror movies like that. I like slasher films. And so if you like that kind of vibe, I think you will like this one. Though I think the twist, it was sort of like, so how to describe it? It's like Click, the movie Click with Adam Sandler meets Scream. I give props to the author for this book because even if it ended in a way where I was like, wait, question mark, I feel like it was a good ending. It was just sort of open-ended. Like, okay, so it had me wondering, wait, that's it? What happens next? Like, are you sure? But also it was such a good book that I was like, okay, I'm going to give it, I'll give some grace here because I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. I will say trigger warnings that there are going to be a lot of unaliving because it's like a mystery slasher film type of book. There's some of that going on, some descriptiveness of that, but there was really no spice besides, I think there may have been a kiss scene, at least one kissing scene, and there may be some other things going on just because of the nature of the book. And again, think sort of like slasher film. So imagine that. So I would say if you don't like those kinds of movies, maybe don't pick this book up. But for the most part, it was a thrilling read. And I was able to read this one a little bit quicker than maybe a lot of other thrillers. The next book on my list is Redeeming Love by Francine Rivers. I read this book. You know what? I think that this one's kind of funny because I was trying to remember if I started it. No, I definitely did not start this one in December. So I'm pretty sure I started this one in January and I gave it, let me see, I think I gave it a 4.5 and some people may be very offended by that. But I will say this, I really actually loved this book. It was so intense though. It was intense. And I remember being like so over the main character, Angel, aka Sarah, and she has a lot of other names, but that's basically her real name is Sarah. I remember being like, look, if this girl leaves Michael Hosea one more time, and I was like, girl, like just stop it. But it was good. It was so good. It's a historical Christian romance. But I will say this, right? I did not know going into this it would have as many trigger warnings as it did. Obviously, it has inspiration from the book of Hosea from the Bible, and there's prostitution and different things going on here. But for me, I wish that someone had given some more trigger warnings, because it's one of those books where it's recommended a lot, but nobody really talks about, or at least for me, when I've seen it being recommended or heard it being recommended, they don't talk about some of the trigger warnings that you may see in it. But I did make an entire video about that, so maybe I will pop it on the screen or at the end of this video so that you can be able to check out my thoughts on that book. I won't talk about it too much here just because I talked about it a lot in that video. And in the video I did, the one that I'm mentioning, I did talk about, I started reading the book and I immediately wanted to make a video and talk about where I was in the book, how I felt about it. But then I finished the book, and the video, I was still editing it. And so I went back and added a section where I'm really talking about, hey, there are a lot more trigger warnings in here than I thought. And so I really do share that with you. And if you're interested in reading this book, then I hope that you will check out that video so that you will sort of be prepared for what to expect. Again, I start off like, hey, I haven't finished the book yet. And then it goes into, hey, so I finished the book now, and here's what you need to know. Okay, last one, and I think I need some more tea because I've been talking a lot, but the last one is Dark of Night by, I think her name is, I've heard it said as Colleen Coble, but it looks like Colleen Coble, and I'm not sure, but she is a very like famous, well-known Christian romance and like Christian suspense author. In the book that I read from her in January, but so I started it in January, finished it like today in February. I think it may be like February 3rd or 4th when I'm recording this video. So I sort of counted it for January. Again, I have some books like that where I started it here, but I finished it here. But it was technically my buddy read for, I think it was supposed to be my buddy read for January, but we just started it late with the one that I do with my sister. And then let me backtrack. I think the teacher was my buddy read for December, but we finished it in January. I'm not sure. So many books. I'm like trying to get the timeline right, but something like that. Anyways, let's drink some tea and get back into it. Dark of Night by, I think it's Colleen Coble. I am so sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I will get it right one of these days. But this book was, you know what? I will say this. I enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star, and I'll tell you why. It's a Christian book. She's a Christian author, and it's more of like a romance suspense. At least that's how it's marketed. I will say that it was not as heavy on the romance, though. There was definitely a romance plot, and it was central to the plot, but it feels like it was more of a mystery, like a domestic mystery thriller with a romance and family plot mixed in there. And then you had some faith. I love how like the characters reference God and stuff. There were certain things that they referenced where I was like, yes, like I love that. It felt very natural, but it also felt like I was hopping into a series. Like I actually described it to my sister in my notes for our buddy read, that it felt like I was hopping into a TV show after like I missed a few episodes or something. And come to find out, I didn't know this, but so she picked the book, no shade or anything to her, but she picked this book, and I was happy she did, because I mentioned this author to her and I was like, we should check this author out, because we had sort of gone through all that mess that we went through with reading The Teacher by Freida McFadden, and we were really trying to find more cleaner reads for mystery and thriller, because we both like mystery and thriller books. And finding this book was great, but I think it's book 2 in the series, but I didn't know that when we started reading it. And so I finished it way before her. I think that she's like early on in starting it. And so a lot of times, not all the time, but sometimes I will read faster, which let me know if you guys do that too. If you're in a buddy read or like a book club, are you the one who reads faster a lot more, or are you the one who reads slower? So this was one where I read sort of just like that. Like I was listening to the audiobook and I just kept going, even though I felt like I'm missing something, like, is this another chapter in this person's life? Turns out it was. And I just like kept listening to it because the story, the twist and all of that, it was pretty good. You had multiple POVs. And so the way it all tied together, I feel like was a great payoff. Though again, I kind of feel like maybe I should read the series so that I can sort of understand who the main character is a bit more. I think her name was Annie. And yeah, so I would like to check out more of this author's writing though, because I really enjoyed her writing style. And that means we made it. I got to the end of my January reading wrap up. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but we made it to the we made it to the February TBR, which is amazing because that means that there are new books that I haven't read yet that I get to get into, and I'm so excited for this. For my February TBR, I have a couple of YA picks on here. The first one I have is called Love is a Revolution by Renee Watson. I am somebody who does really actually love to read YA. I actually have a master's degree. In one of my master's degrees, I have two. One of them is in youth literature. And so being somebody who has gotten to study youth literature, I've read a lot of youth literature just in general for my degree and just because. And I want to make sure that I'm still reading YA fiction and clean YA fiction. So from what I discovered, I did look this book up. It does seem to be a cleaner read. Usually YA books are, but not always. And it's really about love. It seems like it's about self-love and learning to love yourself and others. And so I wanted to check it out a bit more. I don't know much about it, but the cover is really cute. And so that's on my list. And also it's the month of love, right? It's February. We have Valentine's Day coming up. And I do love a lot of like the romance thing. I kind of like it. I'm also a romance author, a Christian romance author, so that would make sense why I would want to be reading more romance. My second YA pick is by an author named Liara Tamani, and it is called All the Things We Never Knew. So I specifically put this one down on my list because this author is somebody that I actually picked up one of her books years ago. I think that this was her debut book. I think it's called Call My Name. And I remember picking it up randomly in the library once when I was there, I think with my sisters. And I remember writing to her because her writing to me, like the way that she writes, her prose it was very beautiful. And I wrote to her as like a message on her, there was like a way that you can contact the author on her website. And she was so sweet to me. She actually responded via email and told me that she loved my words and that she thought that I was a writer. And I was like, me? And this was before I think I'd ever written a book and published it, right? And I've been a writer for a while, but I remember thinking, oh my goodness, like I hadn't told her. I don't even think I mentioned that I was a writer. And so I thought that was just really sweet that she was so kind to me and saw something in me that I wasn't really paying attention to at the time. And yeah, so I've been like watching her titles and being like, hey, okay, I need to read more of her titles because I just really loved her prose in that first book that I picked up all those years ago. And I want to get into, I think this one is a romance. I think it's a sports romance if I'm not mistaken. So definitely want to check out more of her titles because she was just really kind to me. Moving on to 3 books by one author, Vanessa Miller. Vanessa Miller is a Black, well-known Christian author, if I'm not mistaken. And I have 3 books by her on here, and I think 2 of them are historical fiction. I'm not sure if they're explicitly historical Christian fiction, but I'm assuming they will be clean or cleaner because of who the author is. I'll have to come back and maybe let you all know. Let me know as well if you know anything about these books that maybe I should be aware of before I jump into them. But the 3 books that I have by Vanessa Miller, the first one is Something Good. I believe that this one is more contemporary. And then The Filling Station, which I started reading, but I haven't gotten too far into it yet. And I really, really am starting to like this one. And then the third one is The American Queen. Again, 2 of these, I think The Filling Station and The American Queen are the historical fiction ones. And I think Something Good is the contemporary fiction one. I don't know much about these books. I kind of chose them based on the cover, based on the author, and I may have glanced at the blurb, but I don't think I even like really got into the blurbs. I was just like, oh, yep, I'm sold. So I'm excited to hopefully get into these books this month. Another book on my list is by Rashonda Tate, and it's called The Queen of Sugar Hill. I've heard this book, I think, talked about maybe in a few booktube videos, especially by some of the Black booktubers, but I don't know that much about it. Again, this may be a theme for the February TBR. I may have heard about the book, I may have seen a cover, or maybe saw something about the author, and I thought, let me pick that one up. Let me try this author. A lot of these authors, let me see, I think most of these authors on here for my February TBR, I haven't actually read a book by them yet, or besides, I think Liara Tamani, which I read a book by her years ago. So a lot of these are new authors for me, authors that I'm trying to sort of taste test to see, do I like their books? Do I like their writing style? And I think I have a lot of great picks. So a lot of historical ones too. I'm pretty sure, again, The Queen of Sugar Hill is a historical fiction. The next one on the list, we only have a few more. I was going to say a couple more, but we have at least 3 more on the list. So the next one is August Lane by Regina Black. I'm looking forward to getting into August Lane because it is a second chance romance, and I love second chance romance because my book, Ceaselessly Yours, is a Black cozy second chance romance. And this book, August Lane, I looked it up and the rating for Spice was like, I think a 2 or 3. Somebody actually did like a blog post about this. I think I looked it up twice, and it was like either nothing about Spice in this. There were other trigger warnings of like trauma and things going on with the characters, but it wasn't something that mentioned a lot of Spice. And so I'm excited to get into a book that I don't think it's like a Christian book or anything, but the fact that we can find some more clean reads, especially in romance. So I hope I'm right. I hope that I won't go into this book and then I'm like, oh no, it's actually like more explicit than it led on to be. But I will say something that seems intriguing about the book is that it's like Black main characters, I think country music, there's something going on with music there, and then of course second chance romance. So I'm hoping it's going to be really good and not explicit. Let me know down in the comments if you know something about this book that I don't, so that I can be prepared. And last but not least, we have Kim Cash Tate, 2 books by her in the same series, I believe. And we have, I think the first book is Faithful, and then the second book is Cherished. I'm not sure if it's a trilogy or duology, but these are the 2 books by her in the series that I found. I'm going to be listening to, I think, the audiobooks. I may get one of the ebooks too, but most likely I'm going to be listening to them as an audiobook. And I glanced at the blurbs, especially for the first one, and I'm getting sort of a contemporary Christian romance book about, I think the first one is about like a woman who thought she was going to end up married with kids and things, and it looks like life changed or something else happened. I did not read that much into it to see, because I sometimes like to just pick up a book and because I like the cover, or I wanted to check out this author and see what it's about. But again, I'm trying to be more intentional. That's why I kind of looked into Kim Cash Tate, and this was like a really popular book, a really popular series by her. So I'm like, okay, I'll give it a try, even if I don't know exactly what it's about. But I'm pretty sure it's contemporary Christian romance, and I love books like that. And I'm a fan of Toni Shiloh, and so I hope that maybe these books are similar to some of those books by Toni that I read. And now it's your turn to let me know, what did you read in January of 2025, and what are you looking forward to reading in February of 2026? Because we made it this far. To God be the glory. And while you're at it, make sure that you leave this emoji down in the comments to let me know that you are a part of the end of the video crew. And before you go, I do want to talk a little bit more about my book, Ceaselessly Yours. It is a clean Christian Black romance book. It's sweet, it's cozy, it's sweater weather, and it's perfect for February, especially for this month of love. And if you're looking for another book by a Black author to add to your list for this month to support Black authors like me, then I think you will enjoy this book. Also, no spice. It's clean, but it's so swoon worthy, and you don't need the spice for it to be an interesting, fun sweet, amazing, uplifting story, which it really is. I crafted it from the heart. I think God really blessed me with this story, and I hope that it blesses you too. It's just one of those that just feels like, oh my gosh, like it's so sweet and so cute. And if you know, you know, when you read those kinds of books, you're like, oh my gosh. So if you're looking for that kind of book, then I think you will enjoy Ceaselessly Yours by yours truly. It is available on Amazon. I will leave the link down below in the description box. All my links are down below in the description box or the show notes, so make sure that you check them out before you go. That's all I have for this video, so until next time, bye!